Hi, I'm Jakub, MPB's in-house videographer, and I'm here to find an answer to a really important question. Is Sony A7S III and Sony FX3 the same camera? Why would you buy one and not the other? Let's find out. In 2020, Sony announced a much anticipated camera, Sony A7S III. The next year, Sony announced another camera, Sony FX3, but this time it was part of Sony's cinema line. As it turned out, both of these cameras are basically the same camera inside. They both feature 12-megapixel back-illuminated sensor with amazing low-light capabilities and 15+ stop dynamic range in S-Log 3 mode. They both feature Sony's great in-body image stabilization, then they both can record in 4K up to 120 frames per second in 10-bit 4:2:2 chroma subsampling. But if it's still not enough for you in terms of data, you can output a 16-bit uncompressed raw signal through full-size HDMI ports on both of these cameras and record it externally on a, for example, Atomos Ninja 5 recorder. In terms of similarities, they also both have a flip-out screen. They take either CF Express Type A cards, or at the same time they can record on SD cards. You may think that FX3 inherited menu system from Sony professional video cameras, but it's not true. It has the exact same menu system as Sony A7S III, which is much improved over previous Sony A7S II. So, what is the difference between those two cameras? Like I said before, internally they are basically the same camera with the same capabilities, frame rates, codecs, etc. What is different is on the outside and also what comes in the package. If you buy Sony A7S III, you buy the body, of course, it comes with battery, charger, strap and so on. But if you buy Sony FX3, you get Sony's top handle with XLR inputs in the package. So if we compare those two, I should attach it to make the comparison fair. If you need this top handle with XLR inputs on your A7S III, you need to buy it for additional £500 or $600 or so. If I had to point one feature that makes FX3 a better purchase for video, it would be this top handle. Not only you get access to professional XLR inputs with controls on the side and phantom power outputs, but also you can hold a camera like that, which is so much more comfortable when you're shooting from waist level, or if you just want to carry it around with you. I think you can summarize the main differences between those two cameras in one sentence for each one of them. So I'd say Sony A7S III is a hybrid camera with photography focus, and FX3 is a hybrid camera but with video focus. And not only it comes from the top handle, XLR inputs, etc., but also the build of the body itself just says it's a video camera. There are also multiple mounting points. There are 1/4 inch threads, 3 on top of the camera and 1 on each side. 2 of those threads are taken by screws from the top handle if you're using it, so you're left with 1 on top then. Also, the layout of the buttons and their design is a little bit different on both of these cameras. First of all, there is a power switch button at the back on the FX3, and it resembles power switch that you find on other Sony video cameras, whereas on the Sony A7S III, it's the traditional mirrorless or DSLR switch near the shutter release button. On FX3, there is also a big dedicated record button on top, just where you expect it to be. and there is additional record button at the front. So if you're filming anything while holding the top handle, you can press it with your other hands. On Sony A7S III, there is a dedicated record button on top. It's much smaller and not as convenient as on the FX3. I put the top handle aside to make the buttons layout more visible. Let's look at the top side of the camera. So, as you can see, on top of FX3, there is no mode dial button, there is no exposure compensation dial, there is no additional dial that you usually use to change shutter speed or aperture, depends on in which mode you are. Instead, you can change modes using this additional mode button. On the FX3, there are more buttons that are like pre-set up for you to make it more convenient to use it for video. So there is iris button on top, there is white balance, ISO, and also at the back. You can see that on the photo focused A7S III, on the dial you can press it for ISO or drive mode. On the FX3, they are pre-set up, so there is peaking on one side, zebra, and shutter speed. When it comes to major differences between those two cameras, as you can probably see, there is no electronic viewfinder in the FX3 camera, and it's still on A7S III. So if you're filming outside and the LCD is not bright enough in FX3, you might need to buy some external monitor which is bright enough to film outside. One feature that says I am video camera loud and clear on the FX3 is the presence of tally lights. There is one let me start recording, and as you can see there is one up here which is visible on the front, and on the top there is one around record buttons, and there is one for you at the back, and also in the menu you can turn on this big red frame around LCD screen, so you will always know if you are recording or not. The other feature that will probably make the FX3 more reliable camera if you're filming in high resolution or in higher frame rates is that it has active cooling. But don't worry, there are enough options in the menu responsible for adjusting fan noise, so it will never cause any problem when it comes to filming. What makes FX3 a better video camera for my taste are those little design usability differences. For example, like little protruding edges around some of the buttons. For example, next to the joystick or next to the power switch button or next to the front record button. There are those protruding edges that help me with finding the buttons. If I'm not looking at the camera, looking at LCD or external monitor, and I'm looking for example, the front record button, I can feel it is here. I really love it, and I also really like, compared to previous models from the A7S series, how now you can feel that you're pressing those buttons. There is some resistance here, so you know if you're pressing a button or not. To summarize, when I first heard about Sony releasing the FX3 camera, while there was A7S III already on the market, I didn't think that there will be many people willing to buy it. But now that I got to test it for myself, I'm convinced that it is a better video camera than A7S III, and all of those minor but really important design differences make all the difference. For example, how LCD screen is designed. On FX3, it's so easy to open it up if the camera is mounted on a tripod, because you put your finger here and open up the LCD screen. While on A7S III, the most convenient way to open up LCD screen is to hold it with two fingers and open it. But if your camera is on a tripod, you don't have access to the bottom edge. And all of those little tiny design differences and top handle, of course, make the FX3 a better video camera for me. What do you think about those cameras? Which one is a better choice for you and why? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to click the subscribe button, as there are loads of videos to come to the channel. Thank you and see you next time.